You are listening to That's What I Call Marketing with your host, Conor Byrne.
Welcome to That's What I Call Marketing, the podcast where you will hear from the leading lights in the marketing world and listen to their unique insights. Well, here I am in the green room at Whelans, famous music venue in Dublin. The likes of Jeff Buckley have been in this room. Honestly, Conor Byrne, Jeff Buckley, who thought that would happen? I am here today to talk to IAPI and the Young Cannes Line competition winners. So IAPI run a competition for under 30s to get an opportunity to attend the Cannes Line Festival through the competition. Phenomenal competition and phenomenal group of young creatives that I'm going to meet here today. And so first up, we're going to hear from Shreesha from IAPI, and she's going to be telling us a bit more about the competition. Then I'm going to chat to the digital team, Lorna and Georgia from Droga5. Next, I have Hannah and Lucy from Publicis. They had the film entry. Then I have the PR team, Meabh and Kelly from Edelman. I'll talk to Max Brady from Pull the Trigger, and then I will talk to the CEO, Jack, of Threshold, which was one of the charities this year. So incredible opportunity to celebrate creativity in this country. We are an amazingly creative country and we need to celebrate it more. And these are amazing young creative minds that you're going to hear from today and really be inspired from. So I hope you enjoy this episode from Whelans in Dublin. I'm going to see if there's anything in the fridge behind me now. So we will start the show after a quick word from our sponsors.
Today's show is supported by the Indie List, the leader in providing you with easy access to hundreds of highly experienced marketers quickly and cost effectively. Visit theindielist.ie to speak to the Indie List team today.
Are you facing the maze of global expansion? Diplomat introduces the diplomacy model, a cost-effective, innovative approach to navigating the complexities of your brand's presence in international markets. Visit diplomat.agency.
If you would like to reach an engaged community of marketing leaders, get in touch with That's What I Call Marketing to discuss sponsorship opportunities.
No, these here. Shreesha, thanks a million for joining me on That's What I Call Marketing. Amazing competition. I'd love you to tell everybody, people who don't know about the Young Line competition, can you tell people what it's all about?
Okay, so basically, in a sense, it is a platform for young creators to show their potential on what they can do and just show off their skills and even kind of understand their skills. In technicality, it is a competition. It's a 48-hour competition in the Irish League, at least, where they're given a brief for a charity and they have to come up with a creative, unique solution. And that's really what it is. And then they go at it and come out with ideas, and like either it's a rebrand or if it's a media campaign or digital campaign. And it's just great to see what they come up with. Like they're 30 or under, and it's just good.
It's fantastic that this happens, and it's really intense 48 hours for these young creatives. I guess, what type of people are entering the competition, and do you think there's opportunities for maybe more people? I know we've passed this year, but for next year, thinking ahead, more people to enter it. Like, what are the criteria?
Well, from an IAPI standpoint, there are 7 categories. First of all, IAPI is one, actually from a global standpoint, it's a big milestone for us because we are one of the very few countries that bring all 7, like Young Lions for all 7 categories.
Wow.
That is film, media, digital print, PR, young marketers, and design. And the criteria except for young marketers and design and PR, it's that they have to be an IAPI member agency. For PR, it's PRII or a PR agency. And for design, it's part of ICAD or a design agency. And young marketers is the brand side. But again, the other criteria from an age standpoint is under 30. Other than that, there is no criteria, really.
Right.
You are first year into your role, go for it. If you're under 30, you're eligible. And that's the only thing. You could be a copywriter, a strategist, a art director, anything. It's yours.
And that's amazing because, again, some of the people I know that are going to meet have been multiple entrants. They've been, so it's obviously it's kind of a thing. Once you do it once, you're like, oh, I want to do that again. tell me about that kind of like, I guess, the energy that people are getting out of entering the competition.
I'd say for the first time, it is very overwhelming because we do hear and they are young. And even when I started organizing it from an organizing standpoint, I was like, oh my God, that is intense. That's just so much happening. But then once they go through the process, they find out about these skills and these abilities they had professionally. They didn't even know because they're kind of thrown into the deep end. Plus, they ideate, strategize, and execute an idea from scratch. No supervision. It's their idea and it's their execution. There's no manager looking at it. There's no senior member looking at it, proofing it. It's yours. So I think that's what pumps them and kind of keeps them going. And then we have feedback sessions with them. We kind of, there are 14 members who go forward, but then there are also so many applicants who don't make it. But we sit with them. We kind of tell them what the winning team did, except it's not that they did something wrong. It's just how these guys did it differently. Yeah.
That's because it's brilliant again. I think that ownership piece of the work, because, particularly for maybe a junior creative team, for example, it does go to the senior art director or the ECD or whoever who be like, no, we're not going to show that to the client. We're going to show this to the client. Yeah. And that can be hard. So this is an opportunity actually to just bring something to life kind of with the reins off or the,
100%. Imagine your work is going forward and the room of judges, there's a charity member, there is a creative director, there's a sponsor. And these are all guys like 8 years in the industry, 7 years, 10 years, and all experts. Like that's your work is in front of on the table going forward. That's great. I'd say it's a great rush.
Yeah. And you then, as you've mentioned that, Ireland sends over all 7 categories go over. I know there's a huge amount of people that make that happen, from Aer Lingus flying them over. You tell me about all the people that support this and make it happen because it's not easy.
Yes. So we have sponsors that make all of this possible. That's this 2024 sponsors are Enterprise Ireland, Sky Media Ireland, Pull the Trigger, Aer Lingus, Drogafy, Business Post. Should have probably said them alphabetically, but I'm just thinking about saying them out loud, and Smurfit Kappa.
We named all those ones. But, without support and sponsorship, it's just not possible.
No, and they're not just take a step back as kind of sponsors. They are there with us throughout the judging process. They're not okay, here we're supporting you monetarily. No, they are there with us from the start to the finish. They speak at our events, they support us. And that's, I think, great. They're not silent supporters.
Yeah. Well, I saw the panel for the launch of the Young Lions. I was there. I'm pretty sure everyone was looking at me going, what's he doing here? Did he know it's under 30s? But, again, they were giving their views, not their views, their insight, their kind of recommendations, and even stuff. And don't run with the first idea. But it's, I know it's obviously, but it was just great to kind of hear them see they're hugely engaged with it and incredible. And so look, tonight, there's the presentation of the winners. Tell me a bit about what's going to happen this evening.
So it's the showcase event. It's the big celebration of the 7 teams. They present their winning entry. So it's also like a big reveal because all the entrants who have come through, they know that there's a winning entry. They have not seen it yet. So we are excited. The Young Lions are there prepping and they will present their work. The film will be played. And and then there's a bit of crack, there's drinks and food and stuff like that. It's just an opportunity for the companies, their colleagues to come together and support them. But the work doesn't end there. It's a celebration today, but from now until June, that's when they go to Cannes, they will be working in the background. So we have set up a group of people who will help them work on briefs that were part of the global competitions in the previous years. So they have practice briefs. We aim at giving them at least 3 to 4 practice briefs before the competition, just so that they can get those ideas out there. And then they get to see we have an archive of past briefs from the global competitions. Learn. There's a lot of preparation. It's not just, whoa, celebration. There's a bit of work going on.
But look, it's great. And look, even have that access to all that. You know what I mean? It's amazing. And it's brilliant for the industry. It's brilliant for Irish creativity and Irish creative teams. And, I'm just a huge fan of it because I think, and I've said, there can be some Cannes bashing, and you can see people kind of going, oh, Cannes this, but we have to stop, celebrate creativity. And, IAPI are front and center of that, and it's really amazing. And I know, like, it's not easy putting this together from the whole thing, and I know you're central to it, so a lot of hard work, and I don't know how you're still smiling. There's a clicker that's not working.
It's just the clicker that's not working.
So Shreesha, thanks so much for joining me on That's What I Call Marketing, and good luck this evening with the showcase. I'm sure it'll be an amazing celebration, and I'll talk to you. I'm going to need some prep for Cannes.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thanks a million. Lorna and Georgia, thanks a million for joining me on That's What I Call Marketing. Congratulations on being winners of the Cannes Young Lion competition. How did it feel when you found out you'd won?
I think it was a bit of a surprise. We were both in the office together and we were dialed into a group chat and we were like, oh, how do we even answer the phone? But it was just kind of overwhelming in that moment of realizing we've done it. Because both of us have entered before and you know what it's like to get the email to say you haven't won. So then when you see Shreesha's name calling you, you're like, oh, we've actually won.
You happened to be in a glass room when we won, so everyone was like, is that happy? Is that sad? And then I almost walked into the glass door on the way out. It was definitely couldn't believe it, but delighted.
The experience, so you've been through the experience a few times, but you're given a brief.
Yes.
And then you have 48 hours to respond to that brief. So I'd just love to hear about kind of that experience.
Yeah, I think having entered before, you get to a lot of how do we do this? How do we approach the weekend? And for us, it starts with don't try answer the brief on the Friday, which sounds counterintuitive, but the best thing can happen is just by going to bed early and live with the brief for a little bit, let it breathe, give it time for random thoughts and just trash them out between you, just teams each other, ping each other. We didn't even get into a room together on the Friday after the briefing. We separated, saw what way the brief took both of us, and then went at it on the Saturday fresh, came in with thoughts, little things that could get us going. And then finally we hit that idea and ran with it. And I think even from that weekend, we have loads of different ways. Sorry, I'm not losing my voice. So from that weekend, we had different approaches to when do you start the board for the digital category? Because that's what you submit in the end. Yeah. So you submit an A3 board that has a max 600 words. And how do you approach even that? So we didn't start executing the board until the Sunday. We focused on the write-up on the Saturday, making sure that we had the minimum amount of words possible to land the idea for judges. Because the less words, the more you can show with the imagery on the board.
Yeah, and it's a real skill being able to get the words down, because it's not easy, but you can write a lot of words. Yeah. Getting something succinctly down and
I think the freedom you're suddenly given is really exciting. It's almost like the parents are away, you can do whatever you want, but then that's actually the most daunting part, because suddenly you're like, what direction do we go? How do we answer it? Where do we start? So we found it really helpful to set ourselves our own rules and our own parameters. And the 600, you're allowed to have 600 words, but stop thinking that that's what you should hit. It's not a goal. It should be an absolute limit. No one's going to read 600 boards. And we kind of started to think about, judges have to see so many of these. It's the same brief every time. What's going to make you stand out? And what's the one thing you want them to remember is how we wrote it up.
What was the one thing you wanted them to remember?
That we were the best. That we should win.
Is that only on your board?
Yeah.
We've done this a lot. We are the best, but you haven't shown us anything. It's not the point. We deserve it.
No. What was our one thing? I think we started out by setting out 3 rules, and we kind of left them with hopefully them realizing that we'd answer those 3 rules, which really answered their brief. We kind of distilled it down to what we thought was the most important, and they obviously thought it was the most important bits too.
And I suppose we keep alluding to rules. We're not telling you what they were, which might help. But the first rule, because this is around housing, there's so much negativity out there about housing that this ultimately had to be positive.
Right.
The second rule we set ourselves was that we know how tricky landlords can be. So this had to be renter friendly. And the third rule was that more and more people are calling Ireland home. So this had to be inclusive for this brand.
Yeah. Can you explain then the idea that you landed on based on the 3 rules that you've now explained?
Connor, that felt like a dig. I was just being mysterious. So we wanted to place tenancy rights essentially in homes everywhere. But we know owning your rights isn't an easy thing. We've both been renters. The majority of the country have been. And tenancy rights aren't something you ever think about until it's too late. So we essentially created these bespoke digital prints that let everyone own their rights, quite literally having a copy in their home, while also having a really nice print to help essentially bring the home to life.
So the prints allowed us to have the message of let's stay home on the front in multiple languages. But what was the key to it was on the back was a copy of your rights. So they were hidden. So when you had them, they were right there in your home, hanging in front of you, should you ever need them.
Amazing. Very clever. Very clever. You get to go to Cannes now. What are your expectations?
We've loads of rules for that too. No, I'm kidding. I think it's really exciting. It's kind of the best of the best, bringing creativity together. So the competition was obviously a really important part. But getting to just see bringing all these creative minds together. I know I have multiple questions for so many. We get to go to a lot of the talks, and it's just kind of, you don't get to do this at this point in your career. Yeah. So it's a really great opportunity to do it.
And I think getting to represent your country is huge. I think we've both passed the Olympics now at this point. I don't think we'll make the rugby team.
I had to explain it to my dad. I was like, it's kind of like getting a cap. And then he got the idea.
And I was the same. I was like, it's kind of like the Olympics of advertising and we're representing Ireland. But people get it then because that's how huge it is when you're working in the industry. You get to go over there and do something to represent the creativity of an entire nation and show it on a mass scale. And not everyone is lucky enough to do that. And I think when we entered this, we were like, we could do it, and we believed in ourselves enough to do it over there too. So hopefully we can answer that brief just as successfully as we answered this one.
And so when you get over there, it's a whole brand new brief.
Yeah.
Same process?
Less hours. It's 24 hours over there.
Amazing.
So neither of us have been in the competition before. I was lucky enough to be in Cannes 2 years ago. And I know it is quite intense, 24 hours where it's all about the brief. It could be for any organisation, tends to be a global organisation. But in similar vein, it's a charity or non-for-profit.
I think the second, though, you try and take it too seriously is the second the brief beats you. So it's still keeping in mind the fun. I mean, it's going to be easy being in Cannes to keep in mind the fun, but not taking it too seriously is really important.
And that's probably something that crossed over with how we approached the weekend here. We made sure that we both got to go to the gym or meet up with friends or family, because there is a serious element where you're submitting this, but also those moments are invaluable. So you will find us at the beach in Cannes on the day of the briefing at some point.
But that's where the idea is. You have to walk away from it to let it, as you say, kind of sit with you and kind of percolate almost.
And that comes, rosé. Yeah, exactly. You added the rosé, I didn't, just to be clear.
We were all thinking it.
But listen, very best of luck in Cannes. Congratulations on winning and on getting there. And I'm going to be there, so hopefully we'll get to catch up when you win in Cannes.
You can help us with our one.
No, you don't want that.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thanks a million. Hannah and Lucy, thanks a million for take two for joining me on That's What I Call Marketing. Congratulations on winning your category. You got the brief. It's really intense, 48 hours. Can you tell me a bit about when you got the brief, what your reaction was to
it? So when we first got the brief, it was kind of a hard one in a way because it was a very general brief. It was raise awareness. So there's no particular, demographic that you're going for, but it also meant we could kind of go anywhere with it. So I think initially we tried to list out all of the ideas that we could go for, like what were the really obvious approaches, and then to try and avoid doing those because
kill them.
Kill those ones because that's what kind of everyone is going to go for. And to kind of use those as a springboard for finding something that is that little bit more outside the box. Then we had a look for other work we looked up other charities that might exist outside of Ireland that were like did similar work and campaigns they could have done, which we couldn't really find. Like Threshold are obviously very what is the word? Very niche, but like very needed. And then from that, we went down this like YouTube rabbit hole that was like gave us the inspiration for the idea we landed with in the end.
Can you explain the idea that you landed with?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, just to speak to Hannah's point as well. The way we got the idea is we wanted to make sure that we were not just thinking executionally. You know, we wanted to kind of have something that felt more like a bigger idea. That's just our process. It felt more impactful if it was coming, because I think it was film. You have to shoot it. So people often default to what they can shoot and what they're able to make. So we were like, okay, let's just think bigger picture here. If we had all the money in the world, what would we do?
Right.
And how would we do it? And that's kind of how we got to our idea. So the idea we landed on was we kind of, through our research and everything and the stories we had read, the testimonials from previous clients of Threshold, was that they kind of found their voices through the process with Threshold, finding that knowledge and learning how to speak and use the right language to communicate what their rights were and that they knew what they were entitled to. So for us, the bigger idea then for our film was showing how that process works and that journey of how someone can find their voice with the help of Threshold.
And really clever execution. I've seen it, and I actually was. It's amazing. It's amazing. It is. You've 48 hours to do this. Not just come up with the idea, but obviously film it as well and create something. And even in kind of that form of kind of that speed, I was actually drawn in and kind of emotional when I watched it. And I didn't necessarily know actually where the reveal was going to go, the voice, whose voice that was going to be. That was really powerful, really, really powerful. Did you know, was there a moment when you were in that process that you felt you were onto something really powerful?
Yeah, there was like a literal like grab the shoulder, we got the idea, and like proper kind of light bulb moment. And it was through process of elimination. Like we had a lot of bad ideas. Sorry. We had a lot of bad ideas that were just, were just too kind of obvious, like Hannah said. And it was when we kind of, that clicked, that kind of moment where it was like, when we kind of land on that voice thing, that was kind of the lead when we talk about that telephone voice and how that comfort can just make you feel instantly better. That anxiety is just totally relieved once you hear someone tell you it's going to be okay. And that's kind of how we got to that moment. And
Hannah, it's going to get made. Is pull the trigger, I think, get to make it. It's going to be on Sky TV. That's amazing.
Yeah, really exciting. I'm actually very excited about that part, which I kind of forgot when we had like won the competition. I was like, oh, we're going to Cannes. And I was like, that's just like an additional exciting part to it.
We got the email today from the production company to say we're going to start working on it, from Pull the Trigger, from Max Brady. So it's all becoming very real.
So when will that, do you know when that comes out?
So I know that it'll be in production in, I think, September, October. So I don't know then how long with post and stuff. You know how these timelines can be.
We need a camp director on that.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I wanted to be diplomatic in that.
Yeah, that's not our strong suit.
Yeah, like we could do it in 48 hours, but to do it right, we're going to need a year.
Take years. So look, obviously, apart from all that and the great stuff, and the work gets seen, which is brilliant. I love that. Is you do get to go to Cannes. What are you looking forward to most about Cannes, Hannah?
So for me, like obviously I've never been, but I just hear all of the tales from other people who have gone. And I found a few like vloggers on YouTube doing like, hour-long videos of their Cannes experience.
Okay.
So, going to like talks from creatives from all over the world, like I'm really looking forward to that. Even just like meeting other creatives from all over the place. Being in the competition is also very exciting, even though there's a part of me I'm like, we've already won. We're going there, So for me, we've already won. But going there and getting to compete with creatives from all over the world, that's also so exciting and a great opportunity. So looking forward to a bit of sunshine.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm not going to turn my nose up at that. South of France.
Eternal winter we're having as well.
No, yeah. Like April, it's like
Change
October.
Yeah. For
God's sake. Lucy, what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, I think pretty much the same. Like, it's just like Hannah said, like, we have people in our agency, Publicis, who have been a few times, and they just tell these amazing tales of the people you meet, the things you see, the parties.
Yeah, I didn't want to say.
just slip that in there, to be honest. But actually, like, genuinely, I think we are very excited to just nerd out a bit, you know, and just get to go and see things and listen to really cool people talk about cool things, you know. Yeah. That's just kind of...
And bring it back, you know, you will get to bring that back to the agency and just kind of that inspiration. Like, people can bash. Like, there's definitely can bashing that goes on. I even saw I don't know if you saw the McDonald's smelling billboard that says it smells like fries, and people are giving out about it going, that's just out to win a Cannes award. I'm like, maybe it is. But it has to be an outlet for creativity. And, you know, Johnny Cahill, who's really well known as CMO of Heineken USA, he's like, creativity is proven to drive business, brand power and business growth. So, like, I kind of feel enough of the can bashing.
Yeah.
And let's be inspired, because then you get to bring that back and we get to raise the game.
Yeah, and just celebrate that creativity, you know, like, because I feel like so often it can get kind of competitive and people kind of want to, with pitches and everything.
Oh yeah, pitches are fun.
At the end of the day, like, we are just all trying to make cool things, you know. We're trying to have fun with the job, you know. It is one of the most fun 9-to-5s you can have. So I think just embrace that. Like, we better get some good briefs when we get back home, so we like fucking rared.
Yeah. It's fine. I've had Eamon McCarthy on this podcast. Listen, have a great time over there. I'm get to go as press with this.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah.
Hey.
So I've no idea what to expect. So if you see me looking lost with the backpack, you're like, there he goes. I'd love him. Clue what's going on. Listen, congratulations, and enjoy the presentation tonight. Don't be nervous about the 150 people you're presenting to.
Oh, Jesus.
Easy work.
Easy work, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Kelly, Meabh, thanks a million for joining me on That's What I Call Marketing. Congratulations on winning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. It wasn't.
You're multiple winners.
No biggie. My only claim to fame.
That's claim to fame. Let's start with the two charities involved with this year's Cannes Young Lions, and you guys answered the brief from Children in Hospital Ireland. Can you tell me a bit about the brief?
Yeah, sure. So with the Children in Hospital brief, so it's a charity that has they appear basically in 14 different hospitals. So basically what they do is it just says in the title, they volunteer to play with children. Because there's a lot of kind of insights and research that's gone into it beforehand, saying that actually, like, playing with children really, like, aids their recovery process while they're in hospital. And because another fact that they had was that play is a fundamental right for children. So why is there a lack of it in an area that kind of needs it the most? So that's why the brief then was to kind of recruit more volunteers, receive more donations, and then basically they wanted us to target then the general population. But we kind of went down a different route then when we actually answered the brief.
Because that is a lot to do all those things.
Yeah. Well, of course, like when it is a charity, like they kind of just want you to complete everything, hit everybody all at once. But then it's kind of our kind of role then to just say, okay, maybe this year we'll do this, and then the following year we'll do that. So that's basically what we did, really.
How did you narrow it down then?
Well, we started doing our own research into what demographic first would be the most valuable to tap into. We actually realised that it was Gen Z. They're a bit untapped in that kind of regard. They're not really aware of Children in Hospital Ireland. They also have a bit of extra free time, and they're really generous. So we found some insights that they're donating at higher rates, but also they're less financially mobile and things are a bit tough at the moment. So maybe they could give back by giving 2 hours of their time to Children in Hospital instead. And something social to do and a bit fun. So we thought that they were the best. We had kind of spent
vast majority of the weekend researching this.
So we weren't going down a different route.
Yeah, we couldn't turn back.
You were bought in.
Yeah.
You didn't. Sorry, my phone is saying didn't understand. I understood everything that you're
We
saying.
didn't understand it either at first.
And so can you explain to me then the idea that you landed on and how you kind of brought it to life?
Yeah. So, I mean, we were trying to find a culturally relevant moment to tap into that would really drive kind of the most impact in Ireland anyway. And obviously it's the year of elections. So we just couldn't ignore that. So we decided to kind of put a playful spin on it and create a mock canvassing campaign or a mock election campaign with candidates designed by children in hospitals. So they would draw up their ideal candidate of Minister for Play, and we would do kind of a guerrilla canvassing campaign and put up the canvassing posters in high traffic areas and just start a bit of a social conversation that was a bit fun and humorous and fit the brand quite well. And also good for Gen Z too.
Exactly. Because like hijacking election posters, it's something that like if someone saw in the street, they'd stop and say, oh, what's that? So that's one conversation started already.
Yeah.
So because then the actual drawings of the election posters would be literally stick drawings that is clearly drawn by a child, it kind of brings it back then to the whole, it's children in hospital. That's who was the main focus here.
And I guess you spoke to the charity. How does that work? Like after, I knew they briefed you, but then since you've won, have you had a conversation with them? Have you spoken to them at all about the idea? Do you think it'll go anywhere in kind of when we hit an election?
Yeah, I guess hopefully.
Yeah, waiting for the general election to be. I mean,
yeah,
the
we're
date
ready.
set
We're ready.
We're ready to go. But yeah, when we were doing our presentation anyway, they thought that it really fit the brand's values, and they like it to be playful and humorous. It's not a really sad campaign. They don't want it to be that. They want the play volunteers to come in and have a great time. So if the campaign that they put out to the world it reflects that, then it's great. So yeah, hopefully something comes of it anyway. But
yeah, our first time meeting then the charity was at the initial briefing where they kind of briefed us through the kind of challenges, context, target audience and outputs. And then our next time meeting them was at our presentation when we got shortlisted.
Okay.
So it was good to kind of hear their initial feedback there and then without kind of giving too much away. But in the round, they did say that, like, they did say that was actually possible to, carry out themselves. And what Meabh said, they did like the kind of humorous and lighthearted element because in the initial briefing stage, they were saying the volunteers come out happier than they do walk in because those children in hospital, like, they put a smile on their face. So that's kind of why we wanted to tap into that because they focus on the kind of playfulness in the brief, and then Gen Z, it's known for their kind of playful generation. Like, look at all TikTok dances, for example.
Yeah. Really? But I was saying to you, like, I used to work in a children's hospital, and so I've seen firsthand exactly what you're talking about. So you nail that, and I think also, I've seen it, and I think the idea of actually disrupting something that's so serious and kind of boring, like an election. I know it's important. Sorry, it is important, but it can be boring, and actually finding a way to cut through in what seems probably the noisiest time ever, I think is really, really clever. And, it'd be lovely to see it out there and go live and actually bring some joy to not just kids in hospital, but actually the country around what's going to be probably, we'll talk about inflation and all these other issues, right? So it's great.
Yeah, and I think from a PR perspective for us, especially media facing, it is quite a heavy time. A lot of outlets are definitely looking for some lighthearted news to insert into the middle of that and break it up a bit. So yeah, just so people aren't getting, I guess, bogged down by all the heavy stuff, there's some nice news out there as well. So yeah.
Now you've been to Cannes. I actually feel you're being a bit greedy.
Yeah.
Going again. I'm like very disappointed. No. So what can we expect at Cannes?
I hit this with Kelly as well. I think it's hard to expect anything. Maybe I'm a little bit more prepared now. I know to be overwhelmed, and I'm expecting that. But yeah, it's a lot. I think even just walking down the beach where every brand has these insane activations going on, it's really inspiring to see all of that. It actually kind of made me change my career trajectory. I went into a bit more of a consumer kind of brand facing role because of it. But yeah, a lot going on. I can't even describe what to expect because just don't expect anything. It's don't set any expectations.
But obviously, I've asked her a million questions of the important questions. What do you wear? What are the good parties? All that sort of stuff. But yeah, I've literally just been asking Meabh questions. Two of the girls that I know that won 2 years ago. So literally, I've just been hounding absolutely everybody for basically what talks do you go to, all that sort of stuff.
It's hard to choose. Like, you might be choosing between Paris Hilton and Louis Theroux on two different stages, and you can't be in two places at once. So yeah, you definitely have to make your choices.
Yeah. Just like when you're at festivals.
Yeah.
Which artist should I say?
Well, listen, congratulations. Well done. Amazing win. Number 2 for you. But really great. And you have a great time at the festival. Like, you have to do work when you're there, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But sure, look, that's just, is that early on in the week?
No, well, last year it was right smack in the middle of it. So I think I got my brief on Tuesday afternoon last year. Spent all of Tuesday night, all of Wednesday, submitted at like 10 p.m. on Wednesday, and then presentations on Thursday. So it is in the middle of the week, and it does dampen the fun a little bit. But I think I'll be more prepared for that this year. Maybe not go out for as long the night before.
It's still my first time, not yours.
You can stay at home.
I still need to make all the mistakes.
You do all the work. It's like a bad student, like study partnership. Like, you know, you do all the work. No, listen, best of luck out there, and you know, great to be representing Ireland on a world stage. Like, it really is. Like, it's
Absolutely.
a huge achievement. So congratulations, and thanks for joining me.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Well, we'll see you there.
We'll be right back after these.
Today's show is brought to you by the Indie List CMO Collective. This service from the Indie List provides you with access to a curated range of highly experienced and talented senior marketing specialists. Visit theindielist.ie to find out more.
Are you facing the maze of global expansion? Diplomat introduces the diplomacy model, a cost-effective, innovative approach to navigating the complexities of your brand's presence in international markets. Visit diplomat.agency.
Max, thanks a million for joining me on That's What I Call Marketing. Great to have you here.
That's all, my pleasure. Thank you.
Listen, you've been involved with Cannes Young Lions for a number of years. You said 7 years.
Yeah, I think it's 7 years. So from the very first year, which was for that competition was for the Peter McVerry Trust. So yeah, from right from way back in the day. Yeah.
And so your involvement is you take the winning film entry, and then you actually go and you proper produce it. Yeah. Well, I don't know about proper, but yeah, I produce it. Yeah. So, yeah, that's our sponsorship is part of it to because part of the process, I was just explaining this to somebody earlier today. Part of the process is not only that the team goes to Cannes to represent Ireland on that stage, but also it's a mentorship program to enable young creatives who may not have got a chance to be on a full-on film set, to have that opportunity to go through the process of script development and, you know, getting the script refined by the client, going through the whole pre-production approval process, and all the way through to final cut and picture lock and getting it signed off. So all the fun stuff.
All the fun stuff, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the challenges that come with production. So
yeah, which is amazing. And I spoke to the winning film team here earlier, and they're amazing, such incredible energy. But you know, they're talking about that. They're like, yeah, no, we think it's going to happen in September, and they're like, that's not our area. You know, like the idea. Yeah. But it must be amazing working with kind of, you know, creatives that, you know, as you say, their first time getting to see all that. It must be really.
Sometimes they will have had experience, but often they may be junior enough in their agency that they haven't had the opportunity to go and do something where they're in charge, you know, and where they get to make the decisions and they get to tell the director that shot's not good enough. We want it this way, you know. So it's good experience. It's a good learning experience, and to be in charge of the whole idea and the whole process, you know, and to be collaborative with the director and the producer and the rest of the team. So I wouldn't say they've never been on sets, but they may have been on smaller sets, or they may have been on sets for observation. But to be in charge, you know, and to own it, it's a good process to be able to learn.
It's amazing. And, you know, you can't, like, until you do it, you can't know the things and the mistakes. And then that's you're there, I guess, to kind of guide without getting in the way, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, we try to stay as close as we possibly can to the winning idea, to the winning script, because that's the fairest way to do it. So we do try to stay very close to the original ideas that was brought in. Obviously, there's some development because there's always something that's missing, which is reasonable because, you've got a team that have had 48 hours to come up with a concept and then to execute that concept. So there is some stuff that has to be addressed in terms of making it work for the client. So that's part of the process that we then we start to engage in now before they go to Cannes to represent the country in that category. Bless them. And because it's a hard category to be representing Ireland in. It's not an easy category, and it's difficult, and I think sometimes as well for a lot of the young creatives that come from Ireland, we have very colloquial humour, we have colloquial ways of doing things. And sometimes that doesn't translate for international juries that are looking at work.
That is very interesting because we have kind of when we're funny we can have it's a very quirky sense of humor. Yeah. That's interesting that you kind of have to have that. So will you talk to that particular team before they go actually with that kind of insight? Yeah,
I usually do some sort of a chat to them about that sort of thing, but I'm always kind of available for any of the young lions, because what we discovered on the first year was they all went on completely unprepared.
Right.
Not for the mayhem that Cannes becomes. Now, most of our young lions, and particularly the film team, will be fairly busy because they're one of the last categories to end up in the competition. Right. So they have to kind of keep it all together and keep very focused. But it can be quite mayhem down there. So I find the first year or two, because we didn't, as a country, we didn't go to Cannes, yes. We didn't participate, we didn't attend, and we weren't really ready for it. We weren't ready for the high. It is actually hard work. It's fun, but it's hard work. And there's a lot of talks to get to. There's a lot of talks that are very popular. So explaining to delegates maybe haven't been there before. How do I manage to get into the queues? How to use the app? How to make sure that you get to the talks that are going to be the most inspirational to you, that you're going to get the most out of. But even silly things like, bring a crossbody handbag with you because you won't have hands to hold a bag, and, wear sneakers all the time, and, and dress for the heat, and be aware that you're going to be on your feet from 9 o'clock in the morning, sometimes to 6 o'clock the next morning, so so that sort of stuff, practical things, that
I'm taking notes here.
I hope you are. I bet you'll be in the gutter bar along with the rest of them this year, so.
I don't think so. I'm definitely there to try get as much content as I can. Yeah. So it'll be a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I think it's the inspiration of it. We were talking earlier on, there can be a bit of I guess Cannes bashing, people.
Yeah.
And I think I can understand some of it, but I think actually if we don't celebrate creativity, and I got to chat to James Herman about this before, and we have to be able to celebrate creativity, and creativity drives business growth. And if we don't stop and recognize it and talk about it, I think,
No, completely. And, awards are only one part of the Cannes Festival. And I know that's a big part for a lot of creatives, but it is only one part of the festival. A huge part of that festival is the inspiration that you get. You see things that you never would have the opportunity to see here, no matter how many platforms you're involved in terms of looking at work from around the world. You see things that you kind of go, oh my God, that's amazing. And you bring that back with you, and your horizons are expanded to a certain extent, and you come back all fired up and ready to go. And, sometimes that gets beaten out of you quite quickly. But it is very important, I think, as a small country as well, to go to Cannes, to somewhere like Cannes, and to see other small countries who perform really well on the international stage in terms of creativity, and to realise that we can do it too.
I'm so glad you said that, because I really have a strong belief on that as well, that we are a small country, yes, but we're we're a nation of storytellers, musicians, artists. It's a creative nation, and there's a real opportunity. That's why I love this. I love this competition. I love the fact that these young people are going. I sound like a dinosaur. These young people are going to the festival because it helps raise the bar. It helps us realize that we're up there, we're as good, and this can be a truly a creative nation. We should be as proud of, I think, of our creativity and a creative industry as we are of our fashion and our art and our music. I truly believe that.
Oh, completely. And, and advertising, people kind of knock advertising. No, it's not this, it's not that. It doesn't. It, as you said, it contributes to businesses. It helps businesses to keep themselves relevant. It helps businesses to transform, I think, in some respects, because you might have businesses who suddenly realize, well, we really need to be looking at our ESG and how we do that. And then they use advertising to get that message across. That in turn keeps jobs going or creates new work and new jobs. I represented a director. I haven't represented him for a while now, but he's still a very good friend. He's based in Milan, and one of his pieces of work is on permanent display in the Louvre as a piece of art. So advertising can be art. It doesn't all have to be sell. Sometimes it can be, and it serves a public service broadcast role. Where it informs people and keeps people, informed of their rights and all that type of stuff. So it has a huge breadth in terms of what it does. It's not just about, selling you something that you really don't need.
Us.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But it can do good things. I was saying that to someone else, like, it can do good in the world. And, well, listen, thanks so much for joining me. And, I think the fact that you go and you make these pieces of work, for the winning team is amazing. I've said to everyone, I've worked in nonprofits an awful long time in my past, and I know how hard it is as a nonprofit to actually get seen, get heard, because it's a very competitive space. People don't like those words, but it is. And so, the impact that's going to have is huge.
And it's an amazing opportunity for any not-for-profit or charity to have. And, the fact that Sky are given 6 weeks free media time, and the fact that IAPI run this competition every year, is testament to how successful it actually is. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. Max, thanks so much. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you. Lovely to meet you. Thanks a million.
John, thanks a million for joining me on That's What I Call Marketing. Maybe just briefly introduce yourself to everybody.
Sure. So my name's John Mark McCafferty. I'm CEO with Threshold. So we are a national housing charity. We specialise in assisting people in the private rented sector, advising tenants, representing them where necessary, where there's maybe been a dispute. And we're about preventing homelessness, protecting tenancies, and advocating for tenants' rights and a right to housing in our policy and advocacy work. So we provide services on the ground, but we also seek change in policy and legislation.
Yeah, and look, we could spend about 8 hours talking about that situation in this country. But Threshold were part of the Cannes Young Lions competition, and you had a brief that you put into the Young Lions. Can you tell me a bit about the ask of them?
Yeah, well, I mean, I got a call from Charlie Stoney before Christmas, and we were genuinely delighted to have been considered as a charity for the Cannes Young Lions competition, and that's because profile is really important for an organisation like Threshold. We are the national charity for renters, but the big challenge is to get visibility for young people to know. Young renters to know that we exist and how to access them. So for us, it was really exciting, this prospect of having this whole group of young marketeers and creatives engaging with our brand, our offering, and seeing what the possibilities might be in telling the story of the difference that Threshold makes to the lives of renters and their families. How we can advise, how we can save people's tenancies, save people's homes. And we were really interested to know how they would understand the brief.
Yeah, right.
What it was, but equally what it wasn't. And be able to focus in on our unique selling point, what difference we make and what makes us different in terms of a charity and a service provider. So that was really, really interesting to see the kind of processes and the ideas that the young marketeers would come up with.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I worked in nonprofits for a long time, and it's a very competitive space. People don't like using those kind of words, but it's competitive. It's hard to stand out and get cut through. People think about, homelessness, and they might think of one or two charities, and there's different, your rental space is very different. So as you say, how they interpreted that brief. So they have 48 hours to respond to the brief. Like, that's a phenomenal amount of pressure. You've seen some of the work. I'd love you to tell me about your reaction when you got to see some of the work.
Well, I mean, first of all, it was incredible to see that level of energy, ideas, creativity. And as you say, done within 48 hours. It's a really, really tight time frame. And it's not just about coming up with the ideas. It's about executing those ideas and presenting something, whether through film, through digital, through various media. And that was a huge challenge that was placed at the doorstep of the creatives and the young marketeers. And I think what I saw was very, very impressive. And what struck us was how few knew who Threshold was. And yet, I guess once we had a really important set of sessions on the Friday morning with them, trying to explain who we were, tell our story. And once they had that very, very exacting deadline, they come up with a whole variety of things. Some pretty wide of the mark, has to be said, but some really, really on the money, and some really forcefully and innovatively showing what we do in a way that we wouldn't have come up with in a million years.
Yeah,
and I think that's the added value. Yeah,
you're too close to it sometimes to be able to find that different way of telling that story.
Yeah.
Out of the work that you've seen, do you think there's any of it that you would take on and kind of, without not who, but is there any of the work you kind of go, actually, we should use this. The public should see this.
Absolutely. A number of entries were very, very strong in telling our story in an accurate way, in a kind of a truthful way, in honouring what we do, and also did it in an engaging way around the person and, around loss or a sense of, losing things, a sense of fear or whatever. I think it was really important that we got those kind of insights from people that kind of tug at the heartstrings, and convey what we do without getting into a whole heap of detail.
Yeah.
That really kind of just reach out and show what we do in a matter of seconds, and do it through all sorts of, ingenious kind of methods. So I really, really impressed by the range and the quality of the offering.
It's brilliant. Like, it's really promising for the future of, Irish or maybe, creativity in this country. You've got, 48 hours, you have to understand a brief. You've said exactly, get an insight, communicate something in a short space of time. Like, it's incredibly promising.
Yeah. And that was what struck, myself and my colleagues in our fundraising department who were engaging on the Friday morning when we were talking to the young people. There was 2 sessions, and really, really interested in, I guess, what we do. Inquisitive, I think, really inquiring as to what the service we provide, the difference we make. And then I could see people thinking out, what might this look like? What could this be over the course of the weekend? And I think, look, it's really encouraging. There's obviously a very buoyant, very vibrant kind of creative community in Ireland and in Dublin. And I guess Cannes Young Lions is that opportunity of tapping into that reservoir of creativity and energy and ideas. And it provides us with a kind of, we can step to the side, and we're offered this opportunity to engage with these very kind of gifted, creative young people. And they're giving up a weekend. Okay, it's for the big prize of Cannes and everything, but they are engaging with our cause and our issue. They're taking it seriously. They're giving it their best shot over the course of the weekend. And they're coming up with a whole range of things that we can use, a whole range of things, and are parts of what they're doing we might be able to use in the future. And I think for us, like, we don't have a creatives team, we have a fundraising team and we have an advocacy team, but in terms of that well of creatives and ideas. It was a golden opportunity, and they were the words I used when I was talking with Charlie on the initial conversations, that this was our chance to kind of be part of something which was had the potential to provide all sorts of ideas, all sorts of connections as well into the creative organizations, and in terms of the likes of the judging as well, and the various organizations that are involved in the entire work of Cannes Young Lions. It was a golden opportunity.
Listen, John, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. And listen, thank you to everyone at Cannes Young Lions, to Shreesha, Catherine, to Charlie Stoney. We just had an amazing time. We're very, very appreciative of the opportunity.
They're great. Thanks a million.
Thank you.
Well, it's from Whelans, and that's what I call marketing. I'm going to leave. They're all up there getting ready to go. So I'll let these guys all get ready to do the showcase. It's time for the not young line to go home. Thanks so much for tuning in, and don't forget to rate, review, or like this episode wherever you are listening or watching. It really helps us reach any more engaged community marketers just like you. So until the next time, from me, Conor Byrne, take care.
Thanks to the Indie List for sponsoring today's show. Visit theindielist.ie to find out more.
If you would like to reach an engaged community of marketing leaders, get in touch with That's What I Call Marketing to discuss sponsorship opportunities.
Are you facing the maze of global expansion? Diplomat introduces the diplomacy model, a cost-effective, innovative approach to navigating the complexities of your brand's presence in international markets. Visit diplomat.agency